Remembers Troy with both of his hands whacking the side of his dad's face. Boom, 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 saying, "Dad, Dad, Dad, guess what? The moon followed us to Canada." From Troy. He recalled being taught by George to balance eggs on the refrigerator. And the time he borrowed some boards from the barn and built a double-decker tree house. Dad was angry at first, but then George, being a bit of a builder himself, as you can see, looked at the tree house and the anger was gone. He was pretty impressed with his kid's work. Then Troy slept in that treehouse one night, only to hear sounds he thought were made by a bear. The bear motive is strong in this family. So he thought there was a bear making his noise, readying itself to climb up that tree. And so he yelled and he yelled, until George shouted out from the house, "It's only a family dog!" rooting around. So Troy remembered one of the many get-rich-quick schemes that George bought into, this one. Getting all you could ever wish for by simply picking and selling pine cones. I've grown up in the Northwest. Oh man, if only that would work. He remembers his dad getting sued by an oil company for selling plans for building a more efficient carburetor. And that led to the memory of Troy getting his first car, a Corvair, and how he and Dad rebuilt the engine in the living room. Thank you, Barbara, for being so patient. Troy remembers how his dad bailed him out of detention at Canadian Union College for some trouble that Troy had gotten himself into on Halloween night. Ask him about that, maybe he'll tell you. Troy also recalled how he and his dad built two of Troy's homes, and in between they renovated another home. From Todd, again the theme of bears. Here's another one of those stories. Todd remembers walking in the woods and coming face to face with a mama bear and her two cubs. And George gave all of his kids a very quick lesson on how to walk away slowly, quietly, make no fuss. Todd recalls heading with Dad to the local dump where it was common to see bears rooting around. He remembers going with Dad to get firewood from some of the logging sites where George worked, how once he and Troy quickly and haphazardly unloaded a truck bed of firewood so they could go have some fun. But when George saw what they had done, he made them come back, and now they not only had to stack the wood, they had to split it first. Todd remembers wrecking the family tractor, and George was rather patient with him about it. Todd spoke about his dad helping him build a go-kart, and how proud George was when Todd's birdhouse entered into a contest, won Todd his first set of binoculars. He remembers how George allowed the grandkids, boy, I don't know about this one, to shave his head. He let the hair grow out a little bit, and then they would give him whatever, mohawk or whatever, and then they would, whatever is currently popular, and eventually they would shave it all off so George could wear his hair short. And everyone talked about, and you know, you've seen some of the slides, but George had a lot of life in him. And in his 70s, he went water skiing for the first time, and I'm told he did very well for a very long time. Now others offered some memories. Rebecca offered this. How Grandpa would leave coins on the front porch, what he called their allowance, apparently for letting him drag them all over to garage sales. She spoke of several songs, special songs that George and others would sing. Johnny Cash's song, Wings in the Morning. My Old Man is a Dust Man. And I think you might even be able to hear some of these later on the other side when we go there for dinner. Who Threw the Overalls in Mrs. Murphy's Chowder? Which apparently was done at a wedding. Does that sound like wedding music? Maybe it is. I don't know. I have to hear it. She recalled when Grandpa allowed the grandkids to choose where they drove while on a road trip. They got to choose whether they would go left or right or straight. And Grandpa would even drive through people's fields because laughingly were pointing him in those directions. She remembered how he built a large water slide in the yard for them to play on. Randy, who's an only child, talked about the noise and the sheer intensity of the Wright family, which took some doing to get used to. But George showed him how he managed. George just turned down his hearing aid. And together, he and Randy would hang out and enjoy each other's peace and quiet. Chelsea talked about Grandpa's jokes and stories where George would mimic the accent of characters he loved to tell stories in full voice. She recalled how Grandpa loved his ice cream and candy, gladly would share it with all of the grandkids and others. How, this is pushing my buttons, I wouldn't go there, I don't think. How the girls in the family used to tie bows and put clips in his hair, and he even let them paint makeup all over. How he would say that Chelsea's brother was his favorite grandson. Of course, he was the only grandson. But still, it's nice to be the favorite, isn't it? No matter how you get there. Tim spoke about how he dated Teresa for a couple of years, came to ask George's permission to marry her. He asked George, "What do you want for a bride price?" And they went back and forth, and finally he said, "Well, is a bucket of chicken okay?" And George agreed, and the deal was done. Shauna spoke about having just started dating Troy. George and Barbara came over to meet her, but then Troy went off for work. And so she had to entertain what would later become her in-laws by herself for the entire day, the first day she had met them. And they had just started dating. And later in the day, George and Barbara wanted a picture taken, apparently to capture the visit. And Barbara, probably wanting to put some positive momentum in their relationship, said, "Troy, put your arm around her." Look what has happened. Good job, Barbara. It's amazing what parents have to do to help steer their children, isn't it? It's incredible. But George was part of this too. He said to Shauna, "Come here, let me tell you a secret. I think Troy got himself a really nice girl." Shauna also recalled how George liked to drive trucks with loud mufflers, and how she had the privilege of putting on half a roof over a shop with him. Apparently the construction work runs deep in the family. Well, as you can tell, George Wright was a man filled with a zest for living. And you and I are here to celebrate the life that God gave him for so many years. So would you help us do that? What memories do you have that you'd be willing to share? Please be brief. Remember, there are others. What is on your mind as you remember George today? Raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you. Yes, right up here in the front. Guy coming to you with the microphone.
Thank you. Okay. My name is... There we go. My name is Dick Lefevre. I'm a brother-in-law. My wife is one of Barbara's older sisters. And when I was trying to think of a particular memory, there's so many of George, but so I just asked God to give me a memory. In the middle of night, of all things, this doesn't happen. In the middle of the night, these are the memories that he gave me. The first memory I got was a picture of my brother-in-law last Thanksgiving taking this cooked turkey out of a peanut oil bath. Really well done. And I looked at that and I thought, George's goose is cooked? No, what does this mean? And then it came to me, no, George's life was infused with the love of Christ, just like that turkey was infused by that peanut oil. That's the way his life was. And then the one thought that came to mind, memory that came to mind that I had almost forgotten. Many years ago, my wife and I, when the kids were little, bought into a recreational cattle ranch down in Bend called Sundance Meadows. And later on, Barb and George bought into it too. And I think the only time that George and I ever went horseback riding. We were just at the time, that was early on, and you could just check the horses out and go where you wanted. And so I was taking George on a little tour of the ranch, and we're riding out the beautiful blue, sunny Central Oregon sky. And as George was apt to do, right in the middle of the ride, he breaks out into song. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. And I thought, yeah, wow. Now that was like George. And how, what a great statement. Because George's life in Christ was a foretaste of the glory that he's going to share. And that's true. And then the chorus of that song really is a summary of his life. So if you know it, sing it with me. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Well, that was George to me, and the one thing that I have no doubt on, when George awakes from his sleep and stands before his Savior, he's going to hear Jesus look at him and say, well done, good and faithful servant.
All right, next. So there's someone here in the middle, I think, over here. Yes.
I'm Doug Van, a friend of the family's. We're going to miss George, all us grandma and grandpas here, and all the grandkids. George is an inspirational leader. He led out in the community services program here in the church, local church in Dayton. He's also an author and actor up in 5 Days in Dayton programs. I think he was a king one time in that. And then he preached in that far country of Dayton. And he and Barb shared their hospitality with me one night. George is also a very knowledgeable workman, as we already know. And he was trained in Adventist Community Services disaster response. So that's about as brief as I can be.
All right. Thank you so much. Over here.
I'm Barbara's sister, Shirley, and Barbara was living with us when she met George, so we go way back. And we kind of had this special little thing between us that he was old when I met him, or it seemed old. And then I started getting older. And so we were always joking back and forth about age, and he'd always give me these birthday cards showing how old I was getting. And if I remember that we were together and we met some people that didn't know me, and George turned around and he said, yeah, and this is Shirley, my mother.
Oh, go George. Okay, who's next? You're in the middle.
When we first started attending this church, well, it was our first Christmas here. They asked who wanted to help decorate the big semi-truck that went down for the parade, and raised my hand, and I got to go over to George and Barbara's and help decorate the semi-truck, and it was really neat. And to be a part of that was wonderful. And then we worked in Dayton together at the 5 Days in Dayton. And it was just also so wonderful to see George. Every time we needed somebody to dress up and play a Bible character, George was gung-ho. You know, you'd find him so willing to help out, and he just blessed our lives so much.
Someone else. Over here. Oh, Ben's crowding in. Go ahead, Paul, as you're there.
Well, I was just going to say, among many other memories, I was so impressed that George took an interest in postings of my son. He would hit the like button, or he would make a comment. I mean, how many older people take an interest in the young children of the church by doing simple things like that. It was simple, but it was meaning.
All right, here in the back. Right back here. See that hand raised? There you go.
Hi, this is Orlina Daly. I just want to express my appreciation for all of the help that he has been to us at community service. You know, we were extremely, and we still are, extremely crowded for space over there. And I'd go home one Wednesday, and the next Wednesday I'd come back, and wow, things were all changed because there were some new shelving or furniture was moved around. And we just really appreciate everything George did for us. And thank you, Barbara, for your leadership.
Amen to that. Absolutely. Over here.
George helped us with the house that we lived in, and Melvin and the Pathfinders went on their trip to Oshkosh, and he's like, here's the money, George is gonna come over and fix the dishwasher so we can use it. I'm like, okay. So he comes over and I give him the money, he goes and gets the stuff and he fixes it. Then my parents came over and they're like, Janelle, you have a water leak. And I was like, oh no. I got on Facebook and I said, George, I have a leak in my pipes running down into my basement. The next thing I know, I hear this big boom, and I look out my window and here's George. And I swear he had like a cherry bomb muffler in there to make all that noise in that truck, but he came over and fixed it. He goes, it was just a simple switch, Janelle, nothing problem. I didn't realize that he lived exactly right down the street from us and right down a alley from us, and that he was there to help so quickly. And every once in a while he would call Melvin and go, I need some help. And now I wished I had saved all those messages listening to his voice on there so I could remember that.
Very good. Someone else.
If it wasn't for George, I wouldn't know as much as I know about fixing up the house now.
Okay.
I spent many days helping him haul things in for the yard sales and whatever else. And I really got to know him. It's a big gap in my life now that he's gone.
They don't call them handymen for no reason, right? Or handy to have, if you know someone like that. Yeah, over here in the back. Very back. My left.
I'm Gary Martin, the custodian here, and during the week I have opportunity to be in and out over at the Friendship Center, and it was common to see George and Barbara bring in things to the community services or something, or take things out. One time I had an opportunity to go get something in somebody's house, and he said very little on the way, but I can assure you that people could hear us coming. I thought it was because maybe he didn't have a muffler on. I still don't know today, but and so I've seen a lot. He's built a lot of things. I think he built that little cart that we take things in from the drop box out there, little box out by the community services. It looks like a little house. I think he built that after the other one was burned a couple of years ago. Did a nice job, and it really holds a lot. And I'm going to miss George until Jesus comes again, and then he will rise with the perfect health, perfect body that he deserves because of Jesus. We have a wonderful Savior.
Amen. Someone else. Yes, over here. Heidi.
Well, we've known George and Barbara for a while now, and I'm going to miss George. He's done a lot for us, and he can't begin all the things from helping us with our business and working on our Poplar house when we lost our son, and many different things that we've done together. They used to sit right across the road from where we sat, usually for church, and talked quite a bit. So, anyways, he will be missed.
Someone else over here on the left.
department. I met George last year, September 21st, and Barbara, and it was Sunday night at 8 o'clock, and I moved here from the Oregon coast in Coos Bay, and it was to go to school, and I remember he was smiling when I met him as well, and then the last time I saw him, he was smiling as well. Somehow I became family. I don't know. I remember once when I came here to this church with George and Barbara last year, and he would introduce me to some people that came up. He was like, "This is my friend James," and that really meant a lot for me to have someone introduce me as their friend. I remember one of the first times. Oh yeah, I forgot. When Sunday night when I moved here, the next morning to school, the 22nd. So I was like crazy how I met him and hoping, I was crossing my fingers that they would accept me into their house. When I remember one of the first times when I first started talking to George, I asked him, I was like, "Why is Wawa so beautiful?" And he told me it was because the place is so nice, they named it twice. and I just really appreciate all the things he's helped me with. Like, I have my light on my car, has a little crack in it, and it had some water built up in it, and the light went out, so I replaced the light, and then I was like, "George, how do I dry this out?" And he's like, I was like, "Should I put on the heater?" And he's like, "Oh, I got an idea." And he went to the shop and he used the air compressor hose and blew the air out. I was like, "Wow, that's so smart of this guy." I would have never thought of that. He was like the most creative and helpful and best friend I could have had.
Well, very good. Thank you so much. Someone else? Anyone else? Yeah, over here. Just behind you, Don. Tracy.
I just want to express my appreciation for George and Barbara as part of our church family. They've taught my children Sabbath school, and just as everyone else here has experienced, they've been so willing to help. They're very busy people many times, and yet willing, if I'm setting up for a fall festival or anything, George would run home and get his screwdriver to put something on the wall for me or whatever, and I just really appreciate all that they've done.
Yeah. All right, here in the middle, Phyllis.
Well, I just appreciated George so much, and Barbara's my co-worker. We worked together in community service, and every time I'd see George, he was always ready to help or do something. But I'd say, "How are you today?" He said, "If I was any better, I couldn't stand it." And that was one of his favorite things, that he always had a happy outlook. He'll be missed.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that expression many a time. All right. How are we doing? Is there another, or can we bring this part to a close?
I just have a couple of words for him and Barbara, and it's energizing bunnies. They go and go and go, and they're not spring chickens, like you said. So I really appreciate them. They're a little bigger.
A lot of difference between people who wear out and people who rust out.
Yeah.
George was the kind who was going to wear out. Very busy man. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing today. And if we didn't get to you, there's still time when you can talk to the family at the dinner or whatever and share some memories if you'd like. I think at this point we'll transition to the next step here. So, go ahead.
Thank you, Pastor. I'd like to thank all of you for coming. It means a lot. When my wife asked me what I wanted to call what I wanted to do, I didn't know what else to say but a tribute to Dad. Unfortunately, I was supposed to spend the last Sunday that Dad was here before his surgery with him for the whole day. We were going to watch a little football and hang out, and I had a few things that I wanted to tell him. It's kind of an awkward thing to do because, you know, he's going in for heart surgery and you want to hope for the best and rah, but there is also that very distinct possibility that what happened would happen. Unfortunately, I didn't get to say goodbye to Dad because I had contracted a cold, really severe cold, and I didn't want to be the one who gave it to him. So sadly, I didn't get to say the few things that I wanted to say to him, so I'm going to send them to you today. You have to forgive me if I choke up a little bit. And as I was lying awake for the many times I've lain awake for the last 2 weeks, thinking about what to say as a tribute to my dad, I got to thinking, you know, what really constitutes a successful life? What really constitutes success in life? And I know in our world we live in today, people rate success in a really strange way. They rate success by perhaps the amount of money that you die with. Maybe they rate it with education or fame, that kind of thing. And I got to thinking, you know, what really, Troy, what really constitutes a success? What could you say that would show how successful your father ended up being? And my dad, he helped me build 2 houses. It was very long suffering. And I would never trade that time I had with him. It was a gift. It was a wonderful gift to me. But those houses, one of them sold, we live in the other one. But when all this is over, when everything is done, those houses won't mean anything. They won't be here. They won't last. So it's not what you have that constitutes life. And I started to think, well, what will last? Because youth goes away, money goes away. Even the fun that we have in life eventually fades out. Sometimes it can begin in a lot of mirth and happiness, and it kind of ends in disgust sometimes. I don't know if you've noticed that. So what is it that constitutes a successful life? What is it that will matter? What is it that will endure? I got thinking about Dad, and he was not my biological father. He was not my biological father. He didn't give me life. But I know from talking to Mom over the years, and my sister over the years, I know what he did. I know that what wasn't told you in the slides and presentations was that before my father met Christ, he didn't have a great life. He was alcoholic. He had very loose morals. I don't want to go into all of it. But one day, Dad woke up in the gutter. He woke up in the gutter, and I think that God, on that day, very day, touched him. Because my dad said, I will arise, and I will go into my Father, and I will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son, and that is what he did. He gave his heart to Jesus. He gave his life to Jesus, and that, you know, a lot of people talk about giving their lives to Jesus, but my dad's life, you can tell. Because my dad came along to a little family whose father had shattered it. And he didn't have to take that little family under his wings. You didn't have to reach those arms around them, take them in, but he did. From the early history of my life, I grew up kind of feeling a little bit unwanted because of what my birth father did. But I never felt that way from Dad. And I remember a lot of really wonderful memories that are tied to Jesus from my dad when I was early. I remember going with him when he would have an evangelistic series, you know, and he'd sow those seeds in my young heart. He'd sow those seeds. I remember driving fruit trucks, singing songs with Dad over to Alberta to bring fruit back. I'm sorry, took fruit to Alberta from BC. You know, moonlit drives through Banff National Park. Just me and Dad. Sometimes Todd would come too. Just those times, you know, that quiet man. And I remember one time when I was we were at Hope Camp meeting. All the tents had come down, but I was preaching a sermon because I'd seen Dad do it.
Good.
Little did I know. And yet, as it goes in a young man's life, I turned my back on the God of my father for quite a while. Thought it'd be better out there, you know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. And I remember knowing somehow in the back of my mind, kind of intuitively, that no matter, my dad knew what was going on. I mean, when you're a kid, you think you're kind of smart. Think you can fool him, right? Well, if I just tell this lie to Dad, he won't know where I'm actually going, what I'm actually doing. But I know that Dad was praying for me. He were on his knees praying for me long before I did, working on houses for me. And I remember one night in particular. It was a Saturday night. I was probably about, 18. And I was getting ready to go out, and I was going to go somewhere that I was pretty sure my dad wouldn't want to know I was going. Dad says, "Hey, son, where are you going?" I said, "Oh, I told some lie. I don't remember exactly what it was." It didn't fool him at all. And I knew it. I knew it didn't fool him because what he said, "Well, son, I love you. And I'm praying for you." And I remember coming back from wherever it had been that I'd gone. All the lights were on. The music had stopped. I remember the